Welcome to our Sunday morning Bible class. We're in the study of Ecclesiastes, and I invite you to open up your Bibles, please, to Ecclesiastes, the 8th chapter. I want to stop by and pay attention. We got here last week, but again, emphasizing that throughout this book, you'll see there's a conclusion made that we ought to enjoy the good from our labor. We need to eat and drink, enjoy the fruits of our labor, and different. That same refrain is there, but there's also a context for each one. And we noticed last week, as we look at verses 14 through 15, that we may see individuals. It's not like seeing things happen, but we may come across individuals, and the righteous are treated as if they're wicked. And the wicked are treated as if they are righteous. We've seen back in chapter 3, justice is not going to be there all the time, where we all think justice will be. So now we're looking at, well, this is what can happen when government doesn't involve themselves the way they should. But also we just see people that are wicked people, and they don't seem to be having problems upon the earth. And we realize the righteous are being persecuted. We get all worked up about that. Well, that's something we can't control, but what can we control? Verse 15, then I commended mirth, happiness, because a man hath no better thing under the sun than to worry about injustice. That's injustice is there. That unrighteousness is there. Seems like God's people are not being blessed, and devil's people are being exalted. No better thing than to eat and to drink and to be joyful. For that shall abide with him in his labor. So enjoy the fruits of your labor, is the thought we've been setting forth. And he hits it just this way, without stating that. Here's your labor. This is what you get from your labor all the days of your life, which God hath given him under the sun. You're not going to correct all of the evils that happen. You're not going to. We don't have control over those things. But we do have control how I will react and how I will look at my own self. And we are laboring people. If we don't work, we should not eat. That's honored throughout the Bible. And so we see that's the way that we ought to be involved with. So there you're not going to be worrying about how bad things are. You're going to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Today, hey, the tomatoes are ripened. Hey, let's go eat them. Things growing in your garden. Let's go pick them. And enjoy, hey, we planted and God gave the increase and we're happy. And there's the enjoyment of those things, and sometimes we pass over those things and worry about things we have no control over. So we continue in this idea of what we do not have control over. And question number 6, what can we do even in times when the righteous suffer and the wicked prosper? Notice in verse 16, when in that context, when I apply my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done under the earth, for also there is that neither day or night sleep with his eyes. You can't sleep because these things happen. Then I beheld all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that shall be after them. So I'm going to realize the wickedness is going to take place there, but he continues to bring forth his wisdom. So what can I not find out regarding the work done under the sun? What he comes to the conclusion that we've been talking about, he states it here in these verses 16, 17. I lose a lot of sleep. Then I beheld the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. It says, because however much a man labored to seek it out, yet he shall not find it. And so, what do you mean won't find it? Moreover, he says, though a wise man think to know it, yet he shall not be able to find it. For all for all this I laid to my heart, Solomon says, even to explore all that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of God, whether it be what? And this is a key. Whether it be love or hatred. Man knoweth it not, all is before him. So here we're going from, that's not right that the wicked are not punished and the righteous are punished. That's not good. Well, I'll tell you what you can do while that's happening. You just enjoy the fruits of your labor. You want to get yourself involved with that? I applied Solomon said, I went after it. I lost sleep. And I could not find out the work of God, meaning this is exactly how God is done, and he's a righteous and holy God, therefore we kind of put him in a box. This is the way he's going to act. There's things that happen, and they can be hated and they can be loved. The very same act. You don't know how it's going to be taken. And that's the thing of life. Whether this is going to be good for me or whether it's going to be bad for me, God knows, and he says, how much he labors about it, he shall not know that. Because it's in the hand of God, whether it be love or hated, whether it's going to be received or not, whether it's going to be a good thing or bring forth more persecution. If the Lord will, he can bring forth persecution. And we did not know that was going to take place. Man knoweth that not all is before him, and he can't determine this is the way it's going to work out. You plan to have a very serious conversation with somebody, and you plan it out, how knowing their personality, how they'll react, how am I going to react to that? And all of a sudden, something out of the blue just blows it up, and you weren't prepared for that. Why did you take it that way? Why did he go that route? Why did she take it that way? We don't know, and we may have our best intentions. We're going to do good today. It just blows up in your face. But God may be working out. I'm closing the hearts of people who don't love me, and they're going to turn against you, even though you said something good. From your perspective, God will judge me or judge you. That's the way they should have acted. But whether it was hated or loved, it's going to be on them. It's not that God overruled them or anything like that. It's the fact that he allows this to take place where it brings forth a total different response than you thought would happen. It's hated. I thought they'd love it. It was hated. And we didn't know all the things that were working together. And you can preach a sermon on love and just everybody get mad at you before it's over. So what happened? Well, your examples and that sort of thing, they didn't like the way that worked. And you weren't even prepared for that. That happens in preaching. And you say, well, I just preached on love. How come everybody hates this and hates that? You don't know what their lives are like, and it hits a nerve. And I think God has a way of bringing that to bear to expose the hearts of people. And you just look back and say, I didn't know it was going to work that way. But we're instruments for God, and sometimes God will bring forth good from that, from our standpoint, or sometimes we'll be persecuted for that. And there's a lesson to learn, and there's also ways of God using things to bring about his purpose when he's ready to bring judgment on people and expose their heart. And that happens. David? That's right. It's a great example. Yeah. And that's when you know somebody's losing the battle, if that's all they can argue about in it. They'll attack the messenger, they'll attack the person. And that's true. But it's, again, when God makes it crooked, you're not going to make it straight. And it shows that God's in control. And you may not like that concept of God, but it's biblical. We keep coming across it. We keep seeing how it happens. And Joseph is a great example of just providential things. It's things that were not miraculous, but all the things that were happening to him that just keep piling on. And but God, Joseph at the end said, "Your brothers meant all of that for evil. God meant it for good." Meant what they were doing to him that was evil, he meant it for good. Because it was going to put Joseph in a place where he'd save his people from famine. Well, God, I don't like the way that worked out. Take it up with God. That's the way God did it. And we see God's ways. And we can look at that. He's not governed by time. He's not governed by ego in the sense that we got to get this done in his time so he can be a good king or be a good ruler. Joseph spent a lot of his young years in tears. And he just living a righteous life. But he was exalted at the end. Job went through a lot of pain, but he was exalted in the end. He learns his lessons, hopefully. And I hope we do that too when we go through difficult times. Anything to add to that? What can man not find out regarding working under the sun, especially God's word? All right, let's look at question of where do all the righteous and the wicked go? I want to read this because when I read this, I knew the answers here, and I said, well, just cut to the chase and get it done. And I'm thinking to myself, why did he do it this way? Verse 2, all things come alike to all. There is one event to the righteous and to the wicked, to the good and to the clean and to the unclean. To him that sacrificeth and to him that sacrificeth not. As is the good, so is the sinner. He that sweareth is he that feareth an oath. Contrasting things. He that swears and maybe just haphazardly swears and doesn't think about it. No, one that fears an oath and therefore doesn't do that as often. But he's painting all these pictures. It said, this is an evil in all that is done unto the Son, and there is one event unto all. Yea, also, the heart of the sons of men is full of evil, and madness is in their heart while they live. And after that, where do they go? They go to the dead. Finally, thank you. Tell me, one thing happens to them all, and you tell me all these things in between? Why is that? Why would God do it that way? You know, we're looking at our question. We'll go see that, and you got to read all these verses. But I want to see what is happening there to get us to realize, hey, we're all going to the same place, and that is we're going to the grave. Is that they go to the dead, verse 3? And then he starts having a proverb about that. So why is all of that in between 2 and 3 that we're reading about people? We're reading about people. Are they contrast? Some that swear, maybe too much in this context, and those who feareth an oath that realize I'm not going to make rash oaths. And then you begin to realize that the good and the sinner, the sacrifice of him, and then it sacrifice not. There's one event happen. He builds up. There's one event to happen to all to keep us on line. Then he comes back. There's sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their heart while they live. And all of these things are contrast. People doing good, people doing evil. And we think, oh, it's just a lot of a maze over there. But what does he do? He solves it all. I tell you where everybody goes, even the good here. You got these contrasts, and we're going different directions and all of that. Where do we all end up? The grave. And that's been the adult eye-opener in the book of Ecclesiastes. That's why adult eye-opener, because we say, well, that's for adults, not for children. And yet, chapter 11 and 12, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Enjoy those days, but realize you're coming to the judgment. This is for young people as well, to realize death is a reality. It is something we're not going to avoid. And that's something that's going to be there before us. We need to deal with that. And that's what he's doing here. People are good, people are evil. There's just madness because not everybody's the same. Not everybody's the same. They're all different, but what is the same? And that's the point that he's trying to feel and to understand. All that. The wise, the unwise, those that just swore all the time and didn't fulfill their oaths, and those who feared an oath, those who walked righteously, and those who did not. We see the same thing in the earlier chapters when death is inserted. You know, you work hard for the things you have wisdom and accumulating them, but when you die, it's left to another. And who knows if he's a fool? Who knows if they'll squander it in a week? You have no control over that. So we need to realize, why was I more wise than the fool? We're all going to die. That's because wisdom is better than foolishness. Under the sun, that's a better way to live life, so we choose that. But when we start thinking, well, wisdom's going to be my God, I'll just get about 3 PhDs and I'll be smart, and I will have all this learning because I don't want to be foolish. What's going to happen to you? He hits that in his early chapters. You're going to die and you will be forgotten. Me with 4 PhDs, you will be forgotten. And just think about people who've lived in history, and sometimes you come across things that remind you of them, and you say, I forgot about those people. And yet they were very prominent in their time. You see that with people with in the idea of entertainment and sports and all those things. They're forgotten, even though they were special at their moment. And that's the way the wise and the foolish. So I think he's, again, laboriously not giving you the answer, letting you read through it, because there's so many differences, and yet all of these differences all unite in one place, and that is the grave. And that is something that is sobering, but we should not fear it. And how can a Christian look at the reality and not fear death? Because we know what lies ahead. See, we don't know what's ahead of us, whether it be hatred or love and all that. We know what lies ahead. This is just life under the sun, and we know what lies ahead, and we know who has defeated death. Christ has. He's defeated the fear of death, Hebrews. And he took away the power of the law, which was sin against us, by dying. He lived a perfect life under the law. He died to take away the guilt of sin. He was resurrected to take away death. The bodily resurrection was there. He's the first fruits, and then we come as the harvest. We know we're going to be raised from the dead, and we're going to be with him forever in heaven. We know that's what he's promised. And as Peter says, that we have a reward that's ahead of us, and we have this reward of the inheritance of heaven. It's undefiled, it fadeth not away, it's reserved in heaven for you. It's just precious for me. And when you read it, for you, it's individually reserved for us who have been begotten again by the gospel. And we live that life. Is death going to be painful to us? It might be. Is it going to be something we have to do a lot of suffering? Maybe. But we know what lies ahead of that. We don't have to fear death, that reality, because we're prepared for it. And I think if we knew exactly what day we're going to die, how would we react to that? You got, July the 10th, you're going to die. What would you do between now, here's May, and July 10th? What will you do? Will your life change any? When your parents are out and you have been given the chores in the house and you know they're going to be gone for a week and they trusted you, will you wash the dishes every day? Or will you and your friends just pile up the dishes, and when you know your parents are going home, we'll go wash dishes now. We'll make it all clean before they get here. How would we react? You can answer that. I know I'd probably wait because I know when they're coming. And that's why God says, you don't know when I'm coming. As the man said, I don't have to get ready, I am ready. So I don't have to get ready. And that's all we ought to be. We ought to be ready. And part of that's knowledge, getting our lives right with God, and that becomes a very important thing. Ecclesiastes is just giving us wisdom, and all this wisdom is not, I'm coming out of that and looking at eternity in heaven. But this wisdom is about how we ought to live here upon this earth. And of course, he's driving all through these chapters, and in the end, fearing God and keeping his commandments is what man is all about. So he doesn't leave God out of it. He just said life under the sun. And we're going to see why that's limited here, especially in this chapter 9. Okay, any thoughts? Where do all the righteous and wicked go? All right, why is a living dog better than a dead lion? First of all, you see the contrast, lion and dog. If they came out in the yard, you got a dog and a little chihuahua or whatever you have, and a lion, would you fear for your dog, your little puppy? Because a lion and a dog, they're more powerful. He's the king of the beast. And you may look good in the poodle shop, but you're not king of the beast. You're a dog. And that contrast, but what does he do? We're talking about life and death situations. For a living dog is better than a dead lion. For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything, neither have they any more reward. So, life under the sun, you don't know anything about life under the sun anymore. And I believe that's true. What did he say before that? For to him that is joined with all the living, there is what? There's hope. I'm still alive. I can still breathe. I got hope. And for a living dog is better than a dead lion. I may not be king. I may not be queen. I may not have all the power. I may be a nobody, but I'm living and they're dead. And they may have been a great lion, but they're dead. I'm living. I might be a living dog, but I'm alive because there's hope. And when life is over under the sun, we're going to see our knowledge of the events upon this earth. I don't see any indication in Ecclesiastes where I know what's going on. I know what's going on in my relationship with God. When we pass our memory, I can remember my brothers on earth. I can remember their situation. But all the details and really the point of how I live with air in my lungs, doing my labor, that's really the emphasis here. As we'll just jump to chapter 9 and verse 10, when it says, whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do with all thy might, for there is no work, there's no device, there's no knowledge nor wisdom in the grave, Sheol, where you go. Well, you mean there's no knowledge? I knew my brothers are in danger of coming to hell. I don't want them to go there. You just don't know. Knowledge in doing work under the sun, wisdom and how to get that work done. None of that activity you are engaged in. And there is indeed no device. So you used all these tools in order that you're not going to have tools. You're not doing things under the sun any longer. Your hope for doing those things have gone. And it can happen quickly. We don't know what lies ahead tomorrow. So I think there's a context here of realizing that there's no knowledge of things in the sense of how we operate like we've been doing. Get in the car, I turn on the car, I can turn on the air conditioner, I could use things that make my life happy. All those things are gone. And there's no hope for that being tomorrow. It's going to be that way. And I believe that when we leave this earth, this earth's going to be burned up in 2 Peter 3. I don't think we're going to come back here and enjoy a clean, perfected world. There are views like that in the religious world that are there. But I don't see that in the Bible. But here in Ecclesiastes, I just want us to show in the grave, we have no more work, activities, knowledge in the sense of what's happening upon this earth. I may be extending that too far. Maybe it's my activities are ended. I have no hope to do that work tomorrow. Or as I have no knowledge, who's going to take us back to see? That's what we've already seen in the Ecclesiastes. What's going to take me back to see things that are happening? Nobody. To see indeed what's happened. I can remember the condition they were in and hope somebody goes to preach to them, but I'm not going to be able to do it from the grave. That's Luke 16. So there's the narrowness I'm walking through in what we're seeing in Ecclesiastes. And not that there's not any knowledge after the grave and we're like a dead dog and we're dead all over. And a lot of people go to Ecclesiastes that we're just a beast and we're ending all existence. And that's not true either. Any thoughts or comments along those lines on, well, living dog? And that's just one statement, and yet you reflect upon that, and you can take it a lot of different ways and realize how true it is. You have hope when you're alive, and that hope, as far as under the sun is concerned, is dog. Corey. Yeah.
Like when you look back at chapter 3, you see the comparison of in verse 18 of the condition of men, and then we're like animals. No one knows what may befall us, when we will die. Whether you're as mighty as a lion, humble as a dog. I think it's beautiful that we can understand that you're joined to hope.
That's right.
Whether you're mighty or not.
And the resemblance of a spirit leaving our body is true about a dog or a cat, or you and me. Our spirit leaves. And in that sense, we're like a beast as well. But no, that chapter 3, that's very true. What you're saying, we're like beasts. We're limited. And the only way we know is by revelation from God, and that's important. All right. Question number 10. Why should you eat bread and drink wine with a merry heart? Notice what he says. Well, let's just finish the thought. The dead know not anything, neither have they any more a reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. There's the point about things, knowledge about us on the earth, as well as love, as their hatred and their envy is perished long ago. All the activities that you could do, all the thinking you could do for being under the sun is concerned. Neither have they any more a portion forever in a waiting that is done under the sun. Not going to have any more harvest, that sort of thing. So with that thought of mind, he says again, go thy way, and it says, eat thy what? Bread. With joy, and drink thy what? Okay. How do you get bread? No, H-E-B's out. Kroger's out. And Walgreens is out when you get in a bind. How do you get bread? We get grain? Hey, neighbors? Somebody say neighbors? It starts with the grain, doesn't it? And here again, we're looking at time. I planted the seed. Here comes the grain. And here comes the harvest. How do we get wine? The word there is not denoting alcoholic fortified wines. But where does the wine come from? It comes from the grape. Do we plant the vineyard? And see if that's not so, because what he says, eat thy bread, drink thy wine with merry, for God hath already accepted thy what? What has he accepted? You got bread, didn't you? You got wine, didn't you? That could be the juice in the cluster of the grape. Because God has already accepted your labor, your works. You planted. You tilled it. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. You have done your part. God and his laws of nature have brought about to reward you of your time. God has rewarded. Otherwise, I just have grain and grapes right now. I got bread and wine. And I need to enjoy that. And that becomes important. Again, enjoy the fruits of your labor. And it doesn't eliminate God. It's why we thank God. And what is God doing? I've accepted your works. I didn't bring a blight on you. I didn't bring all these grasshoppers on you. And I know you're praying for that. And I heard your prayer. All of a sudden, you have a product. And you have a harvest. And you can thank God for that. And that becomes very, very important. What does 9:9 say about how we should look at the institution of marriage? Why'd you bring up marriage? Because he goes there. So he let thy garments be always white. And let thy head not lack oil. There's the idea of joy, purity and joy. And then he takes us to the marriage. Live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest. all the days of thy life of vanity, which he hath given thee under the sun, all the days of vanity, for this is thy portion in life, and in thy labor wherein thou laborest under the sun. So he's on the hills of laboring. He talks about your marriage. And what is marriage? What is that institution of marriage? How should we view that from this passage? Duration or joy? Joy. She's not a ball and chain. Neither is he. All the days of my life, I can't get a divorce because God says. That's not the way he says here. And I'm not saying that it's implied. But when you just think duration, it's kind of like eternal life. Well, hell will be eternal too, but they ain't living. And we're going to, well, what did he say? Here's you're working and you enjoy the fruits of your labor. And you know what? That relationship you have with your husband or your wife, in this case, live joyfully with the wife whom thou lovest. He's looking from a man's standpoint. All the days of your life, forever. It's enduring. That's the point you're making. And I agree with that. The institution of marriage, and God has instituted that, is that we have no right to put away. We have only one reason to do that. But live joyfully with wife and all the days of thy life, not 3 times a year when we go on a vacation, or not that many, but once a year. Is all the days of your life. Each day is an opportunity to enjoy the sunrise, the sunset, or high noon, however you want to do it, to enjoy living with the wife whom you love. And that togetherness, it enriches the relationship. That's what it was designed for. And in modern man, we kind of ditched that. We don't have to be married and that sort of thing. But it is a wonderful relationship that God instituted. He instituted that back in Genesis. And you look at what he's instituted government, he's instituted marriage, he instituted the church. And those relationships are there, and they're there for good of man. And marriage is indeed one of them. And how, growing up in life, I was of the generation we're the generation we have great population. We're baby boomers. We got a bunch of us. And now what's happening to us? We're dying off. And so we're not producing. We're not having children. We're not having a lot of children like we did on the farm. And all of a sudden, our population is dwindling. What happens to people when the population dwindles? Well, there's a thing out here called death. And we'll find ourselves, we don't have the workers, we don't have this, it causes problems. So there's always the need of repopulating. And I think the average has been about 2.3 kids per family. Keep that going, you may keep your nation going. But we've gone below that. And that's the problem that people are now seeing. At one time it was overpopulation. And we got to pay money every time. Overpopulation, now we got another issue, and now we're going to give you some money and we'll take care of that. But the point is that there's where we're declining from statistics, because people are dying and people are not repopulating as they've done before. And just a speech a young man made at a Catholic school this week was boo-hoo, because he talked about marriage. He talked about having children and how women could enjoy that and look forward to that. And that is not something you ought to be saying to our modern world. It's amazing. He's stating his opinion, but you don't have that opinion. And we are a nation and people, we destroy ourselves so much because we want to have it our way. We want to declare it, this is how I like to have it. And it's just a mess. So we come back to God's word, and it's duration of our life upon earth, but it's to be a joyous thing. Doesn't mean you don't have problems and issues when you live with someone a long time, but the idea is that there is a sense of husbands treating their wives the right way, wives treating their husbands the right way. We follow God's way. It's a joyous relationship, and you can grow old gracefully together and love one another all the days of your life. Because that's your life, he says, is vanity. It's fleeting. You're not going to have those days back anymore. Enjoy what you have. He said, this is your portion in life. We'll do that later. We'll do that later. We don't have control over tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, and the day comes, and we'll do it tomorrow. We never do it. All those things. This is your portion in life wherein thou labors under the sun. Enjoy every day with your husband or wife. And look at it as a joyous occasion. And that's your portion. That's what you're supposed to get out of it. And I hope that will help us. Any comments on that? All right, real quickly, question number 12. What should be your attitude toward work each day you live? Do as little as you can. Do a little as you get by. As you say, whatsoever the hand finds to do, do it with all thy might. Do it with thy might. Why? Because tomorrow you won't be able to use that side ruler. Tomorrow you won't be able to use that shovel, that instrument that you're using, that computer. You won't be able to use that. For there's no work, nor device, nor knowledge, nor wisdom, and shield where thou goest. So here's my opportunity. And see what I'm thinking, when you follow God's wisdom, you're going to be a great worker. You're going to be a great employee, because you're going to do things honorable in the sight of all men. You're going to be working knowing that God sees you, not the boss. And sometimes he may not see you, but God's seeing you. And you do that work. And you do it with all of your might. We don't do haphazard employment. We go in there and we do the best we can. And when you do that, usually you'll be rewarded. You'll make progress in the company, hopefully. But if not, God's pleased. And you realize, I spent my time where I had the moment to use my knowledge. I'm growing, I'm learning better to do my work and all that sort of thing. And this is my time, because when I die, no one's bringing me back to do those things. Those days are gone. So you live each day, and you're ready for what happens, but you don't have to rush up and get ready. Well, I know we haven't been together for so long as husband and wife, and enjoy the sunsets. We're going to spend 1 month solid, and you may not have all that month. You don't have to go get ready. You're just ready. And each day you feel your life doing the best I can, enjoy the fruits of my labors, enjoy my husband, enjoy my wife, and realize I can't correct all the ills of the world, but I can handle how I live today. And that's the wisdom of Ecclesiastes. And our young people need to know that too, as they get caught up in this world, and we all need to be reminded of it. Any thoughts before we close? Our next week, Lord willing, why is it that the race is not always won by the swift? And we'll talk about the tear and the tortoise, I guess.